Well, Dr. Thomas Horn and others speculate on this, how something like this might happen with regard to a pandemic. Again, in true Hegelian style, Hegelian dialectic is where you cause a problem which causes a reaction that you just so happen to have the solution for already ready to go, right? So, okay, just imagine this. Whoever they are, they're responsible for everything, right? Release a really bad flu pandemic of some sort. Well, imagine this. If you don't get the shot that they've got all ready to go for you, no shot or cure means, well, you don't have a job. Somebody mentioned last night their job requires them to take the flu shot. And if they don't get the flu shot, they lose their job. So we're already seeing kind of a microcosm of that happening right now, a test. Got to take the shot. You can't be a teacher in school, or you can't work at CVS or whatever. You got to take the shot. So they're already making it mandatory for some people. So we've got a little miniature test going on with that. If you don't take it, there's no cure, no job, you end up being quarantined. Oh, you don't want to take the shot? You don't want to take what really I believe is going to be the mark of the beast? Well, fine, you're going to have to be quarantined. Bring you over here. Well, that means you're not going to have any money, which means you won't be able to buy or sell. That seems to be a good explanation to me to explain why they can't buy or sell, but also explain why they beg for death, but death flees from them. Because they can't die, right? So that's if you don't take the shot, you end up with no job, quarantine, no flu, or no food, no buying or selling. But if you do take the shot, well, you have some interesting side effects. It's like those commercials, where you always see the drug that they're offering. Side effects may include drowsiness, blah, 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 Take the shot. Side effects may include counterfeit immortality, not redeemable, and cast alive into the lake of fire. Ask your doctor if it's right for you. All right, I'm joking about it, but it's serious. That's some serious business right there. And there's going to come a time, especially if we're going through this thing, where some tough decisions may have to be made. When you're looking at your kid that's got this pandemic that they released, and they've got this cure over there, but you heard this stuff, and the Holy Spirit's telling you, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Don't inject your kid with the mark of the beast. We're going to have to work on that strong faith thing and believe in God and trusting in Him.
That's what's in our day. And, I was looking into all this at that time, and I saw two books that I had on my bookshelf, or sitting on my desk actually, arranged in this order. Corrupting the Image by Doug Hamp and Forbidden Gates by Tom and Nita Horn. And I was looking at they were arranged in that order. I said, wow, what if that's the formula? Corrupting the image that God created and called good of each kind leads to opening up forbidden gates that brings about the recreation or the return of the Nephilim. I believe that's exactly what's happening, especially if you look in the definition of what the fall, that's where Nephilim comes from, and just look at all that. I mean, no good's going to come from that. And this is why, you're going to have to make your own decisions, but it's getting scarier and scarier to go to hospitals for anything. Short of setting a broken bone or something, maybe. Because as soon as they start getting into genetic stuff and vaccines and things of that nature, especially if you're trying to walk in Torah, I'm of the opinion that we're going to have to really start to walk in and understand what Scripture says. Anyone, not just Peter, James, and John, anyone who believes in me will do the same works that I've done and even greater works. I think we're going to have to get that. And, Steve talked about being part of the Pentecostal movement and stuff, and, and I've been associated with some of that too. And I've actually seen people get healed. I've seen people being healed through these hands right here, not because of who I am, but because of who lives inside of me. And I know enough about myself that if I have a half a second to think about it, it's not going to work. But I've had those times where I've been in a situation and God will just tap me on the shoulder and say, heal her. And that's happened a number of times. The times that I think about it and the, but what if it doesn't work and people are going to, forget it. Doubt is the kryptonite of faith. But the times that I just said, okay, yes, Lord, boom. And it wasn't about praying, oh, Lord, please, if it's your will, please. No. Where do you see people doing that in the Bible? You see Peter seeing a dude there say, look, silver and gold I don't have, but what I do have, get up and walk. Command that thing to go. And it goes. And I've seen that happen. So I believe in it. Have I been able to walk in it, steadily? No, absolutely not. But I desire to. And I think a day's coming where we're going to need to. Because it is getting scary out there. And not just on that side. I mean, corrupting all flesh, you have the combining of species, but you also have the merging with technology. And you got Time Magazine putting out a front cover right there, 2045, the year man becomes immortal. That's their goal. And if you go to 2045.com and read about the Strategic 2045 Social Initiative, you'll see that these people get together every year. Some of the brightest minds in the world get together and discuss technologies and things to get us toward that goal. And it's all about transhumanism. Amen. Blending of species and technologies and cyborgs and stuff. Amen. Which is really interesting when you see a clip like this that was by a U.S. Army general addressing his some cadets that were in an Army school.
If the world of 1916 was complex, or the world of 1945 was complex, the world of 2016 is intensely complex. And I can tell you that from personal experience, and I know there's many others who can tell you that as well. And you will graduate and be in that world, and you're going to be leading the soldiers and the sailors, the airmen and the Marines in that world. You'll be dealing with terrorists. You'll be dealing with hybrid armies. You'll be dealing with little green men. You're going to be dealing with tribes. You'll be dealing with national leaders and local leaders. You'll be dealing with politics and economics. And you'll be dealing with direct fire and indirect fire. And you're going to be dealing with it all. And it's all going to be dealt with simultaneously.
Now, of course, the official take on that is hybrid armies is talking about standard military operations combined with technology, drones, and different things like that. That's sort of the official view of what hybrid army represents. You know, a hybrid of all kinds of different methods. Little green men happens to be a reference, they say, to 6-foot-tall Russian soldiers that have unmarked green uniforms. That's the official story. And that may be true. Sure, great, wonderful. What about all this other stuff that I showed you that is really happening? They are really creating hybrids in laboratories, and all of the ancient history says that you're going to end up with ultimate violence if you do that. And little green men, if I ever said to you the phrase, little green men, what's the first thing you think of? Martians. Where's the kaboom? The earth-shattering kaboom. Little green men is a reference to aliens in pop culture. And we have a massive increase in UFO sightings and alien abductions. So he may be saying more truth than most people are willing to accept. Is the stage being set for the return of the beast? I'm going to conclude with this. You know, I talked about the return of the Watchers that were judged, bound, and buried for 70 generations. Is it just a coincidence that what happened in the 20th century? The return of the Nephilim, is it just a coincidence that we're seeing the hybridization taking place? Well, what about the return of the beast? We're expecting the return of Christ. I believe that there's going to be a return of Antichrist as well. If you remember the names that I had up there, Osiris being one of the references to Nimrod, one of the names he became known by, well, the tomb of Osiris was found in 1999. Dr. Zahi Hawass said, I have found a shaft going 29 meters vertically down into the ground, exactly halfway between the Chevron pyramid and the Sphinx. At the bottom, which is filled with water, we have found a burial chamber with 4 pillars. In the middle is a large granite sarcophagus, which I expect to be the grave of Osiris, the god. I've been digging in Egypt's sand for more than 30 years, and up to date, this is the most exciting discovery I have made. This is what they found when they looked at it. This is an artist rendering of it. The red star is the location between the pyramid and the Sphinx. And then you came down into a large chamber, went down again, came down to an area that had 7 sarcophagus things, and another tunnel that went down even further, actually 6, with a 7th one going down. And then you have the artist depiction on the right there of what they found. Now, the sarcophagus was open. They did find a body inside of it. Everybody that looked at it and studied it did not believe that it was Osiris, but they were thinking that this may be what we might consider to be a resurrection chamber. And so what it appears is that somebody, maybe with the hopes of being resurrected, was loaded into this thing and it didn't work. But it's a very interesting find. You can look that up, study that for yourself. And in 2003, April 2003, coincidentally 1 month before we set up the military occupation phase in Iraq, and the first thing our troops did was raid the Museum of Iraq, and 170,000 items were reported stolen. Of those, most of them were returned. The ones that were not returned were about 3,000 items that all dealt with resurrection and the afterlife. Probably just a coincidence. That's right after they found the tomb of Gilgamesh. And if the stories are to be believed, the body was found, believed to be Gilgamesh, incredibly well preserved, and the primary objective was to extract DNA. So then we get to a warning from Yeshua in Matthew 24. He says, if any man say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. He says, behold, I have told you before. That's King James. Other translations make it sound like, hey, listen up. I'm about to tell you something. Remember what I've told you before? Think about it. If they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert. The body of Gilgamesh was pulled out of the desert in 2003. Go not forth. Behold, he's in the secret chambers. The secret chamber of Osiris was found in 1999. Believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. That's what we should be looking for. Those are the real signs. Any other signs pointing to a Christ, forget about it. This is what you need to pay attention to. And then he says, for wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. And I think Steve said, rightly so, there are many different ways people have looked at these passages. Lots of different interpretations. Here's one of mine. When you look into what the occult believes, and again, the Freemasons and the Illuminati and all the secret societies and stuff, the rituals are all revolved around a dying and resurrecting character. Many cases directly associated with Osiris. And Manly P. Hall is one of the most prolific writers of Freemasonry, said, whenever you see an eagle with a point on the back of its head, it's not really an eagle. It's a stylized, conventionalized phoenix. The phoenix is the Benu. It's the dying and resurrecting soul bird of Osiris in the mythology. So I'm at the train station in Washington, D.C., and if you go there and you look up, you'll see the whole top of the train station is lined with pagan gods. There's one that I didn't put in here, but on the left side, the quote sounds like, it sounds like a biblical thing. It says, behold, I put all things under his feet. But it's a Zeus. That's not what my scriptures say, but you look at the stuff, and that's on the left. When you go to the right, you see this right here. You see two pointy-headed eagles facing in opposite directions, and it says, between them, let all the ends thou aimst at be, thy countries, thy gods, and truths be noble, and the nobleness that lies in other men, sleeping but never dead, will rise in majesty to meet thine own. What is that all about? Well, I got two phoenix eagles right there. I was thinking about my time in the military. When I was in the Army, I was covered from head to toe with eagles. Eagles on our buttons, eagles on our patches, eagles on our shoes. Like eagles are everywhere, the American eagle. But, Manly P. Hall says there's another meaning behind that. And so while we were looking at all this stuff, there was something that I wanted to see, and I didn't know where it was. And we're driving down the road, and I looked between two buildings, and I saw two eagles perched atop pillars, one on each pillar, through this aisleway. I said, I don't know what that is, but let's go check it out. So I go down there, and this is what we find. A statue, this is in the National Harbor in Washington, D.C. A statue of a bearded god coming up out of the National Harbor. And the name of the statue is called The Awakening, which is right underneath the statue of two eagles looking down on it. I don't know, but this stuff is out there. And you got people, again, like Manly P. Hall saying, the dying God shall rise again. The secret room in the house of the hidden places shall be rediscovered. The pyramid, again, shall stand as the ideal emblem of solidarity, inspiration, aspiration, resurrection, and regeneration. This is in The Secret Teaching of All Ages, Manly P. Hall, page 44. We need to know our enemy. I showed a lot of stuff. I'm sorry it went long. I'm hoping that I'm equipping you with at least some things to go look into for yourselves. Because if we're to declare the end from the beginning, then I believe everything we need to know about the last days is given from us in the beginning days. If we want to have any understanding of Revelation, we got to go back to Genesis and work our way forward from there. Thank you.